Hello and welcome to Learn with Indrjeet. This is another video in the series of videos titled Building a To-Do Management System Application in the latest .NET 8 framework from Microsoft. In the previous video, we completed the To-Do Groups controller as we implemented the create range, update range and delete range endpoints. If you haven't watched that video, please go ahead and watch that first. In this video, we'll be creating the to-do list module from the starting using the existing code in the application. So let's get started. So to start with, as we have already implemented the to-do groups module, let's go ahead and implement the to-do lists module, right? So for this, we'll need a table in the SQL Server database. So let's go ahead and create that table first. Then we'll move to Visual Studio for the code part. So here we are in the TodoMS DB database where we have this to-do groups table. Let's have another table here. The first column will be ID. It will be integer and not null. Let us make it a primary key. And let's make it auto increment as identity column. Second one is to do group ID. That will also be an integer and it should be null because a list can belong to a group or may not belong to a group, right? So list name, it will be a varchar 1 to 8, not null, and then we should have created on, which will be a date time, not null. Let's have a default value for that, get UTC date, this function, and let's match the column names. So to do group ID, list name, created on, that's it, 4 columns, one is a foreign key, fine. So let's save the table first. The name will be to do lists and let's implement the foreign key also. So in the to do lists, in the keys section, we'll add a new foreign key and we'll go to column, table and column specifications. And the primary key table will be to do groups, the column will be ID and it will become the to do group ID in the to do lists table. Okay, now save the table. So we have the table ready. Now let's go to Visual Studio and start making the modules. So we'll start with the domain layer. First of all, we'll make a model, then we'll make a interface and do the necessary changes in the unit of work. So copy, paste. I just click, hold control, drag and drop to copy, and let's name it list. Let's copy this thing because we are going to use it at many places. So this will be a to-do list ID, list name, control D. So it will be a integer nullable to-do group ID, to-do group ID, fine. So we have the all the 4 columns that are there, and let's implement the foreign key also. So here to do group and to do group should be the parent. Okay, so by default ID column is the primary key in any table if the name is ID in entity framework, and the foreign key is implemented with this name. Entity framework search for a column called to do group ID, whatever name is there, it appends it with ID and search for that and makes a foreign key based on that column. Okay, so our model is ready. Now let's copy and paste this interface. We need an interface for the to-do lists. Fine. And let's make the changes. So we need to change this group to list in this current document, replace all, and that is done. Okay, so our interface is ready. This get duplicate will return us a duplicate to-do list. Right in the unit of work, as we implemented the to-do group, Control D, and let's change the name. Right, so the changes that are to be done in the domain project are done. So let's rebuild that, and it should build successfully. Okay, fine. Now let's move on to the next one. That is the infrastructure project. So let's add a DB set for to-do list. So Control D and paste. Let's name it to-do lists. Fine. Let's implement the repository. So it will be to-do lists repository, and let's change this group to list in the current document, and the get duplicate is now implemented. So it will search for the list name, convert it to lower, and match with the whatever model we have supplied, the same property. Right, now in the unit of work, we'll find this pointer. So we need to change it here, duplicate, and to do group, and again duplicate, and to do lists. Fine. Okay, so infrastructure, let's build that. Fine. Now all the changes that are to be done in infra is done. Now let's move to the application project, create a DTO, create a view model, and put in the mappings. So let's first start with the DTO. So we have to have a DTO for to-do lists, and change this to list, and there will be another property for group ID. So it will be a to-do group ID, then the list name, then date created on. Fine. Now let's move on to the view model, copy and paste, to-do group, to-do list, and again ID. Let's change the name, and Control D, nullable, to do group ID. Fine. Now let's go on to the automapper profile and duplicate this code with Control D, and sorry, just took a lot of lines, so this is to be duplicated. So let's put in a comment over here. This is for to do groups, and this one will be for to do lists. So in this selection, Control H, let's change the group to list in this selection. Right, so it is done. Now we'll move to the interfaces for the service, as well as we'll implement that service. So let's duplicate the service for lists, and let's change this group to list in the current document. Fine. In the data service, we must have a lists service. So there will be a different service for the lists. Okay, and now we'll implement this to do group service. So rename to do list, and here also change this group, Control H, current document, the shortcut is Alt A, right? And everything seems fine. Now let's put an entry in the data service wherever we have this to do group. So Control F and duplicate this, make an entry for the to do list, and putting in a comma over here, Control D for list, for the list, and here also we need to duplicate this line and change the name. So now all the changes that are needed in the application project, I think those are done because extensions has nothing to do with that. So let's build the application project. This is succeeded, fine. Now let's build everything. We only left with the controller in the API that will make by just copying the to do groups controller and changing the names and all as we have done till now. So let's go ahead and create a to do list controller. So here we have, let's replace this one also in the current document, Alt A. Everything is replaced. Let's review this. So we are going to get a to do lists through this service, and get failed, record not found, record. Let's search for this group keyword. It is not there, but still we want to go through each line. So get seems right, create seems right, update, delete, create range, update range, and delete range. Okay, fine. So save all, Control Shift save. This is the shortcut for that, and let's run the application with F5 and let's see if we have the to do lists. In the Swagger UI. Okay, so here we are in the Swagger UI and with our to do lists, all the endpoints. Let's try and create our first to do list. So the ID will not be there, and the to do group ID, suppose we are adding this list to group number 1, the list name will be test list 1, and let the date be as it is, and let's put in a breakpoint just to check if we are able to create or not. So let's go back and execute. Fine. So it comes here with all the things that we inputted there, and F10 to move to the next line, see if the model is valid, and let's create. Wow, and it is created now with ID 1. We have one entry in the database, right? Continue. We should get a 200 OK response, and here it is. Let's go ahead and check it in the database also. So this list belongs to group ID number 1, means the first group, and it is created on this date. Nice. Let's try the update. Let's try create range, in fact, for this one. So let's paste it over here, and not with the ID. We want to add this list to this group, the first one, and it will be test list 2. And then let's copy it and paste it down below, so that we can have a list in the not belonging to a to-do group. And let's name it test list 3. Nice. And let's add another one inside of the same group with to-do list 3. Let's make it 4. So we want to add another one without any group, and let's name that to-do list 5. Okay, so what we are doing here is we are adding 2 new lists to group number 1, group with ID 1, that will be test list 2 and test list 3, and then we are creating 2 lists without any group. So 4 and 5 will be without any groups. So let's go ahead and put in a endpoint, a debug point over here. F9 is the shortcut for that, and let's hit execute. And what is that? One or more validation errors occurred because there is a trailing comma in the at the end of the line, so which is not supported. So this one, let's hit again, and we hit the breakpoint. F10 to move to the next line. The model is valid, and now we should have 4 created models, 2 without any groups and 2 with group number 1. So let's hit continue, and here we are with all the groups, all the lists. Now let's go ahead and hit get again. Not this one. So we don't want to do any of these. We just want to return okay. Fine. Okay, not a problem. Actually we hit the wrong one, so we wanted to hit the get one. Okay, so here we are with our lists 1 2 3 4, out of which these 2 belong to group number 1, sorry, these 3, and the 4th and 5th belong to no groups. Okay, now let's try update. So let's try get by ID. Try it out. Let's get the list with ID 3. So here is the list. It belongs to group ID number 1. Let's check this one for update. So create we have already tested. Let's do an update on this. So this is number 3, and we want to pass everything that is there or that is already there in 3. So like that, and let's put in updated over here. Updated. Fine. Execute. 200. Okay, and the list is updated. Right, before deleting, let's check the update range. So try, and let's put in here let's take a few from the response of the get. So let's update 1 and 2. Okay, so just copy that, and going to update range, let's replace this with this and put in updated and update tested. Okay, execute, and see we get a 200, and the list name is updated. Right, moving to delete range, that is a dangerous thing. Let's go to delete first, and let's delete the 5th one. list with ID 5, right? So list, the record with ID 5 is now deleted. If we hit get, this one is get. Now if we try to get a list with ID 5, it will say 404 not found, because this record is not there, and also in the complete list. So 5 is gone now, right? So for the time being, I am not going to test the delete range. Let it be. You test it in your application if you are following along, right? So in this video, we created the whole module for to-do list just by copying and pasting the existing code carefully, right? In the next video, I would implement the exception handler for this project, for the API project. So we'll be creating a custom middleware to handle the exceptions. Also, I would like you to go ahead and implement the to-dos module. As per this slide, the to-dos table should be created. It should have a these columns, the ID, to-do list ID, which will be a null, as a to-do may or may not belong to a list. Then the to-do item itself with nvarchar 512, created on, due date, reminder date, repeat, important, and completed, right? So please do the to-dos module yourself. I will do it in this application, but in the next video, we'll be covering custom exception middleware, right? So I hope you like the content of this video. If that is so, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Also, please let me know in comments what you are learning from these videos, what you like. If you have any queries, please ask them in comments. Thank you for your time. Keep learning.